Now, Lisa Wyant was among the first to develop a rating scale to assess this aspect of adult ADHD. And she showed in college students that they rated themselves as having significantly higher levels of this symptom if they had ADHD in comparison to college students who were more neurotypical. Now, this mental restlessness, she found, was also related to decisions to maximize immediate rewards. That is, to maximize the outcomes of decision making. She also found that it was linked to feelings of regret, particularly regret regarding these rather hastily put together decisions to try to maximize immediate rewards or stimulation. So people often had regrets after the fact in these decision-making activities that Lisa was studying. This might explain why inner restlessness is eventually associated with anxiety and depression in ADHD over time. At least we think it might be. That remains open to question. Now, a little more background for you. This is not the classic symptom that we see in psychosis or mania. So don't necessarily confuse the two. They also complain of a mental restlessness, but theirs involves a pressuring of speech, this rapid talking to the point where words are tripping over each other. Although we see excessive talking in adults with ADHD, it's not pressured in that sense, the need to sort of get it out of the head. It's also not associated with the flight of ideas that we see in mania and psychosis, which is not only ideas that are skipping around across topics, but are that rather bizarre in their content. The content of adult ADHD symptoms of restlessness in their mind, such as these thoughts, really isn't necessarily bizarre. It's just skipping all over the place as a result of likely inhibitory problems in thinking. So don't confuse it with psychosis or mania. The symptom has been associated in the brain with dysfunctioning of the prefrontal cortex. Makes perfect sense because we know that that's one region of the brain involved in ADHD. And it's probably due to the fact that this deficient functioning results in a release of the typical inhibition we have over our actions and over our mind. So not just our physical behavior and our speech, but also the inhibition of mental activity so that we can focus on tasks and accomplish them effectively. So it appears to be a disinhibitory effect over both the motor and verbal areas of the brain, such as through the structure known as the striatum. Now, it might also be related to dysfunctioning in the default mode network. We know that in people with ADHD, the default mode network is not being governed by the frontal executive brain as well as it should be. So it's kind of a rogue or renegade network, and it's this network that's related to mind wandering and daydreaming. And Joe Biederman and others have found that the mind-wandering aspect of this inner or mental restlessness is very much related to the mind-wandering and default mode network aspects of neurological functioning. So there may be some relationship here, not just to mental restlessness, but as part of that, mind-wandering. Now, there was a nice little paper back in 2017 by a student over, I believe it was, in Norway, that involved a proposition that this aspect of ADHD, and ADHD more generally, might be related to the impaired sense of time. As you know, I've been talking about ADHD and time blindness now for more than 30 years as a major deficit in ADHD. And Nielsen argues that this creates a desynchrony between the individual and their social environment, so that the individual feels out of sync, out of step, and arrhythmic, if you will, relative to their outer social world, and that this might lead to not only ADHD, but also to this mental restlessness. I happen to think that while this problem with time is definitely a central problem for ADHD, I don't think it explains all of ADHD as Nilsson has tried to do. But nevertheless, it's an entertaining idea, particularly with regard to this mental restlessness.